Welcome to the Trail Chasers podcast. I'm your host, Dean Horwitz, and I'm excited to share this journey with you. Each week, we'll be hitting the trails with some of South Africa's most inspiring trail runners, diving into the topics that matter most and uncovering the secrets of this incredible sport. Lace up your trail shoes and join me on this adventure. New episodes every week. So, welcome to the Trail Chasers, Dan, Bianca. Bianca, I think you're actually my first return guest, so you've got that honor. So
Sure.
Welcome again.
I feel very honored. Thank you for
New
having
studio, but same kind of vibe. Dan, I think, for me, it's really, really cool to have, a bit of international flavor. Not that our South Africans aren't amazing, but it's really just nice to get like a different perspective. And I think for me, obviously, you've had a really incredible year and you're doing really well. So I'm really interested to hear about that, about the, how that's all gone. But I think for me, what's kind of interesting is that obviously you coming from New Zealand, and obviously South Africa, it's same, but different, especially in terms of not being in Europe and not being, not living in Europe. So it gives that also a bit of a different perspective. So very, very keen to hear that. And Bianca, obviously always interested to hear what you got to say. Very interested to hear how the year went after we last chatted, and of course to chat about UTCT as well. I like to start these interviews with a bit of a visualization. It's a new thing that I've added. So I don't know if we are we calling Drylands, was that a race? Are we calling that a race, or is it?
Oh, I'd say it was a race, eh?
It certainly was a race.
Okay.
Well,
A very fun race.
So you can either go Drylands or you can go back to Otto, you can go to Cappadocia. Kind of take me back to that, take me to kind of the race day prep, gear selection, pacing strategies, things like that, how you kind of go into a race like that.
Maybe not Drylands then.
Oh, yeah, because
I didn't think we prepped too much.
and pacing went out the window as soon as we started. Strategy, it was all on.
Yeah, all quite a blur.
Let's go back to...
You go Cappadocia.
Shall I start?
Yeah, you
go
start.
for it.
Okay, let's go to Cappadocia. So imagine you're thinking it's going to be hot. It wasn't super hot, actually. It was pretty cold in the desert of Cappadocia. So, yeah, leading in, I was expecting a hot race and then leapfrogging that into Cape Town, hot weather. To be fair, it's been cold the whole time.
Yeah.
Apart from our jaunt over in the dryland. But yeah, so what did you want to talk about Cappadocia?
Just in general, how you kind of prep for a race, what do you kind of do the week before, the night before? Is it kind of copy and paste, or is it every race is kind of different?
I'd say you've got your own routine, right?
Yeah.
And especially when we travel with a team, we almost get used to everyone else's routine. Yeah. And a lot of that looks like similar meals, similar kind of wake up times, because generally we don't start late, but this race actually started at, I think, 9 a.m. So it was really leisurely start compared to most races where you're up at maybe 4 a.m., 3:30 a.m. in the morning having breakfast. So we got to wake up 7 a.m., have breakfast. And for me, that's usually just like a couple bits of white bread and jam or something. And we were, it's a diet and it's a routine that you can pretty much get the world round. So if you ask for that, you typically can get it. And the same for dinners and leading into the race, we're just looking at simple foods. So rice, white rice, you can get that everywhere. Great. Maybe some chicken. I usually go chicken, but a bit of lean protein. And for myself anyway, the Cappadocia race, going for the 38K, but shorter distance than what I would usually prefer is, say, my specialty. But coming off CCC, I was like, okay, let's build in a bit of speed work, try and get the leg speed back, a bit of speed endurance, doing some shorter intervals. And I thought that the Cappadocia 38K race would play out to be, a really good race for that, because the terrain wasn't too technical and the conditions looked like it would be a pretty fast race, racing quick teammates and some good competition from, I don't know, whoever else was there as well. So no, it was good. But yeah, the plan actually was executed fairly well because
good.
I had a good race and managed to win it.
Yeah.
But did manage to, stay controlled and just push pretty hard in the second half to build a bit of a lead and just hold on from there.
Amazing. And do you kind of have a kind of a generalized kind of race strategy in terms of, you kind of hold off till the end, or is it kind of like you get into the race and see how things go?
Sometimes, and I think it depends on the course for me because obviously I want to play to my strengths, and that is probably flowier trails. And if I feel comfortable, in the first like quarter of a race, that's usually a pretty good sign for me that I can just be a bit more strategic with it and, push the pace a little bit if I'm feeling good and see what those around me are feeling. You can almost tell of the sign of strain on your competitor's face or breathing, and then just go from there. And to be fair, it was really fun. It was really fun because we had a little group. We had a group of about 4 or 5 of us just running along, and managed to just pull away, I guess, in the back half, and that's just where it went on that race. But certainly in other races where there's bigger hills and you got to maybe pace yourself a little bit better, it becomes a bit more strategic.
Amazing. And Bianca, Otter, obviously, it's not your first rodeo. So what is the kind of strategy there? Is it kind of the same every year? What have you kind of maybe implemented since last year? And
Yeah, this year I actually did quite differently to what I've done in previous years. In previous years, I've kind of shied away from the like pre-race stuff of Otter. Okay. So I've normally stayed in Platte, so quite a fair bit away from like Storms River, and then kind of just come into the race environment just before the race. And I normally like get overwhelmed by crowds and stuff. But this year I really like threw myself into the whole experience of Otter. And so myself and my boyfriend went up on the Tuesday of the race and really immersed ourselves in the whole like Otter experience. We were part of the challenge and so we stayed in Storms River directly where the race village was, which I actually really enjoyed. I didn't realize I would enjoy it so much, but I feel like it helped calm my nerves for the race. Strangely, because I've always thought that staying out of the environment would keep me calm, but I actually think that going into it helped a lot this year. Okay. And so, it was very different, and I think I took a lot away from that race, seeing how I actually thrive in those environments before. And then obviously this year Otter was going to be hot, which we saw very early on the weather predictions. And so race strategy during, I suppose always in Otter, my strategy is to just run a very consistent race, never surge. I feel like in Otter, it's the person who slows down the slowest that will win or like that'll do well. Yeah. You can't surge in a race like Otter, I don't think. And then particularly because the heat element was so severe this year, really controlled my intensity, especially for the first half. Try to keep myself as cold as possible. So every water crossing that there was would just like throw as much water on. I actually wore a buff, which was really helpful. Initially it was really hot, but as soon as I got a cold and I was able to like put water all over myself, and just like keep my head cold and like put it behind my ears and stuff like that. I think it really made a difference as well. The strategy was just to conserve energy, understanding that the heat was gonna make the effort feel a lot harder, and then just try and drink and eat as much as possible. Drinking especially important for a race where it's going to be so hot. And pre-race meals, I think in general I was a lot more flexible this year than what I've been in previous years with Otter. Normally I'm like very strict. I must eat risotto before a race. This year it was a little bit different. I mean, still, as Dan said, keeping like very simple carbohydrates and stuff like that in the meals leading up to the race, but definitely a lot more flexible. And I think, I learned a lot from that race and how I was able to execute it well, being a lot more flexible than I usually am.
Amazing.
So it was a really good experience as well.
Incredible. And yeah, how was it? I mean, winning it again, breaking the record. How was?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't break the record.
Didn't break the record. No. Okay, winning it again by such a huge margin.
Yes, yeah. It was really special. I think I had quite a tough year in Europe this year. And it was also, for me, Otter was going to be an experience to see, an experiment.
Yeah.
To see whether what I was going through was a running thing or whether it was a Europe-specific thing. And I think what the race showed me was that it was very obviously a Europe thing and something I need to figure out how to race well in Europe.
Yeah.
I think how I was able to race in Otter really showed me that I know how to race, and it's just the confidence that I think I lack when I'm in Europe to a large extent. And so it was really special. I mean, Otter is always a really, really special event for me. And it's what brings me back every year. So it was incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
And before we kind of get into the thing, I want to chat about UTCT. Dan, are you running it? Are you here supporting? Haven't decided?
No, I'm running it.
Okay.
I'm running the 35K.
Okay.
I've entered. I'm committed.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a bit of a fright, honestly. Not fright, but I probably came over here a bit naive as to how technical the trails are. I was actually just up Skeleton Ravine.
Gorge.
Gorge.
Gorge. Newlands Ravine, Skeleton Gorge.
It is really confusing.
I'm getting them. I'm just confusing myself here, but we went up Skeleton. I just called it Skeleton this morning, and I met a guy, Mike, about maybe 3/4 of the way up. Mike Molyneux. I might have messed up his last name. Sorry, Mike. But I ran with him, and I was like, I better get back for this podcast. I was like, I'll just run down with you, and I was like, whoa! Like he was absolutely motoring on these downhills. I'm like, mate, hopefully you're not racing the 35K. No, but. Yeah, it just shows like how good technically you can get, or if you're used to these trails. And certainly I learned that I've got a wee way to go. It probably takes a bit to build up those technical skills.
Yeah.
So it'll be an experience for sure. Like I want to try and capitalize, as I said, it might be a bit strategic. I've got to try and probably work my way, make sure I stay on top of things on the real technical sections so I can actually run hard on the more runnable bits.
There's no runnable bits.
Yeah, well, that's what I've heard for the 35. But
yeah,
it's been a long season. So I just want to, I'm here. I'm enjoying myself. I'm, getting to experience the Cape Town, South African trail running culture, community. So, I'd love to probably show up to a few of the Tuesday night runs and just get amongst it, really. So here for the race, but also here for a really cool South African experience.
Amazing. And Bianca, the 23 this year.
23. I did the 35 last year, and I actually loved it. And I'm someone that I don't feel thrives with technical running. Maybe naturally I'm just better because I live in Cape Town. But even though I don't necessarily love technical, I really love the 35K. So I think that you'll love it. I was a big advocate for Dan to change. But so I think, this year I decided rather to change the race that I do, not do the 35 again, and go a little bit shorter. So I'm super excited for the 23K, actually. I like short and fast. I think, I enjoy that type of racing. So
a little less technical.
Yes, but also just I like short races. You can be done and just eat another breakfast, chill out, go support the 100K races.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited for. I think I love the UTCT weekend for the atmosphere around the races themselves.
Yeah, it's always nice that you can still run and race and then still be involved rather than doing something like the 100K where it's you're not getting any other.
Well, the 100 miler here, sure.
Yeah.
Take 2 days.
And how did the race go last year? I mean, you came third overall, so you had a pretty good race. Obviously, also coming off the back of Otter. How did it go, and what are you kind of taking into this year?
Yes. The race was really good last year. I didn't really have too many expectations because it'd been quite a long season when I did UTCT last year. But I was super excited because I suppose I'm racing in Europe so much. I seldom get to race in South Africa anymore. So I hadn't raced in Cape Town for ages last year when I did UTCT. And so I think I was just super excited to be racing at home, being with my friends and family. And so, I think I was able to execute the race quite well. It was quite hot last year, and that blockhouse section, sure, you must be prepared. It really can break you if it's really hot.
Yeah.
So I struggled at that point, and the end section was super hot. But I suppose you're so close to the end at that point that you just take it and you just go with it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that race a lot. I think I executed it well. And for this year, sure, I suppose just like run as fast as I can. I don't really have race strategy. I've not actually, I think I'll try recce the route this weekend potentially to see what it's all about, but I haven't really thought too deeply into it yet. I'm like someone that thinks about the race is very close to the race. I mean, so we'll see, but I'm excited.
Dan, I think midday on a hot day, go do the blockhouse section just to know what it feels like.
Except do it with friends. Don't do it on your own.
Or you can maybe win the watch, the Garmin.
Oh yes, the Garmin. Except
I don't know if you guys are sponsored. We're not talking about that. But,
I don't think I'll be hitting you anyway, but I have been up to Blockhouse with Robbie one day.
Oh, you've gone?
Yeah, we went up there and it was pretty hot. I mean,
I think the thing about blockhouse is when you do it in training, it doesn't feel bad because it's quite short. I mean, it's steep, but it's quite short, so you don't really notice it in training. But I think it's in the race. At that point of a race, and then I don't know, it's not inspiring. It's quite it's not really beautiful. I don't know.
And you've just also come from UCT, which is like such a vibe. And
it's like
you
a
don't want to
down.
leave there, and then it's like
What is UCT?
That's the university.
Oh,
it's
right.
Like
the big
so
big
there's
aid
an aid station.
Okay,
it's like a vibe.
I guess we didn't run from down there either. We ran. Will we run from down there in the 35K?
You go through UCT for the final aid station, and then you start the climb kind of straight after that.
So you drop from the contour down to UCT.
So
we didn't do that though. So we just went from the contour up.
So you skipped a whole section.
Yeah, exactly. So on race day, I'll be like way less prepared and just be like, whoa, this climb's way harder than I remember it.
No, it's not too bad. I think it's just a grind. But I mean, there's a lot of grind parts of races in general here.
Wow, especially this race by the sounds.
Just grind your way through. At least it's short enough. You're going to be running for 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours, 35K. That'd be the slowest average pace probably ever race.
That's true actually.
Dan, take us back to the start of your kind of trail running journey. I think I read your family is a lot of running, and was it a running trail family, or was it kind of more road and the trails, was something you went off on your own?
Well, yeah, my grandparents were certainly into their marathons, their road marathons, and a bit of cross country and that kind of thing. We grew up part of the Whakatane Harrier Club, so that was always my local and go-to on a Saturday at 1:30 p.m. We'd always have our, social competitive racing, which is always fun, or grew to be fun as I grew older and actually started to enjoy running. But my dad was a adventure racer, a professional adventure racer, which I think some South Africans would appreciate that and know sport a bit more than maybe the rest of the world. Expedition length adventure racing. And so, I kind of followed in those footsteps a little bit in terms of bouncing around between running and adventure racing, doing some multi-sport. Jeez, that was American. And then I got into a bit of marathon running. And then it was 2022 where I first actually properly tried to get into the trail running world, doing the long distance trail stuff. I had done a couple 100Ks before, trail races over in China, and certainly back home doing the odd 20 to 60K races. But it was 2022 when I went over to the States and really tried to get a golden ticket to get to Western States. And then basically 23 was a bit of a breakout year to actually get in some good results.
If you think back on your career, what were some of the kind of the defining moments, that immediately kind of stick out in your mind?
Oh, it would have to be going to the States the first time, even though my results didn't really speak to what I thought my fitness was. So that's one thing, because I think I learned a lot from that, and that's where I met Hayden Hawks, and he taught me a lot as well. And it was very cool to actually then race him in Tarawera 2023, which for me was a career defining moment where I managed to win that race and get a golden ticket for the first time, and just have a really good experience, especially because it was a local. I I grew up an hour from where that race is, and yeah, it was just really special because I got to share that moment with Hayden as well, but also my family, my partner, and yeah, it was just real cool because they were all out at the aid stations and cheering me on and stuff, and it was just a really nice moment.
Talk to me, I guess, about I read, you had a bit of an interesting COVID experience in Kenya, and you also raced a lot in China. So how did those kind of moments kind of define your career?
Oh yeah. So the China racing came first, and that was when I was doing the multi-sport racing, stage racing over in China. And it is like, I guess, expedition racing, but it's just shorter in that shorter format where you race day after day after day on a broken body. And that doing the dryland traverse actually last weekend really reminded me of that. Like you wake up, your legs are a little bit sore, or in China's case, the whole body would be absolutely toast because you'd be heat stroke almost during these races, 35 degrees, like super hot. But anyway, I guess I went from doing this Chinese multi-sport racing for a good few years, working at the same time, working full-time in an office back in New Zealand, trying to bounce around between all this. And then I got into the marathon type stuff, and my debut was all right, and then I managed to really get the time down close to, I guess, the world champs qualifying time the next year at Gold Coast. I did 2:16 and 15 seconds, and I was like, oh, I could have a good crack at this. Let's really focus on it. I dropped my full-time job, and I was doing some part-time coaching at the time, so I put a bit more effort into that. And I thought, let's go to Kenya, let's try and really go full send here and try and get my marathon time down. So started 2020, holy, a while ago now, 2020, went over to Kenya with the hope of being there for about 5 weeks, getting a good marathon training block, and then going over to Hanover Marathon. And yeah, of course, everyone's got their own COVID story, but that was mine. I was basically over there, this COVID thing started going around, and I had a bit of a yarn to my parents, and they're just typical Kiwis. They're like, it'll be all right. You stay on. You may as well make the most of it while you're there. It'll pass. And then, of course, 5 months later, I managed to get out on a repatriation flight after international borders all closed. I'd certainly gotten pretty sick of just battling away running by then. So it was a good time to get out and made my way back to New Zealand, tail between my legs type situation. But yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing. It was all an experience, and you can't have regrets about these things. I certainly, I tried to make the most of my time while I was there, and did a lot of running. There wasn't much else to do. So yeah, really tried to make the most of that time. And probably looking back, it could have helped with my overall endurance and what I'm doing right now. So that was that.
It's all like building blocks.
Exactly. And then, I got in some, New Zealand borders were closed for quite some time, but we did have some racing going on. There were some roadblocks there with COVID sprouting up here and there and races being cancelled, but I was able to do some local marathons and still have a good time with it, although not improving my PB. So that was where I decided to change to the trail.
Bianca, last time we chatted about that kind of first otter as kind of a defining moment in your journey, but what else, what other kind of things stick out in your sort of career, or your running journey that, kind of define it?
Sure. It's a really good question. I don't know.
Don't think too deep.
Yeah. Sure. I feel like there've been so many defining moments. I suppose joining the Terrex team, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't a race, but definitely it's changed the trajectory of my running journey for sure. I can't say I ever thought that I would be running as a profession, and that obviously has allowed me to do that. So that was definitely a defining moment in that sense. Race-wise, I don't know. I suppose they've all offered different things and been defining in different ways, and enabled me to grow in all sorts of different ways. I've got a lot of different lessons from all of the races that I've done. So I can't say, besides that the two otters that I've had, those are two very defining moments. But outside of that, all of them have played a massive role in where I'm at today. And where my journey has led to so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you talk about the challenges that you faced, and I guess, we can maybe talk a bit about this year, what kind of, other than this year, like when you look back, what kind of challenges, what kind of things have kind of happened that you kind of say, okay, that was a really tough situation, but I've learned a lot from it.
Sure. I think what I learned this year a lot is how big the mental part of racing is, and performing at the highest level, I suppose. As athletes, we're all just humans, right, with our own insecurities and issues and stuff like that. And I suppose we need to make sure that we're on top of those, because when you're racing and performing at the highest level, there's like no hiding. And I think that's something that I neglected a bit this year, going into this year at least. And I realized that very quickly when I got to Europe, and my first race, I just was nowhere and I didn't feel like I should be there. And then it kind of carried on through the races in Europe. And so I learned that the hard way this year, and it's definitely something that I will not neglect again. But I think I also just realized I'm a very big homebody. And so I do struggle a bit leaving home for extended periods of time. And I thought that this year spending a lot of time in Europe would serve me well for my races, but I don't necessarily think that that's true for myself. And I think it's different for different people, but I need to figure out how to do racing in Europe a bit differently next year. That'll serve me in the best way. And then, I think also community for me is such a big thing. And I didn't realize that before I left this year, but I definitely missed that aspect of running when I was away. So all sorts of things I learned this year. But I think the main one is just the mental part of running and racing, and how important that is. Specifically for me, I mean, I think it's different for different people, but for myself, I think that's bigger than the physical part. And so something that I'm for sure going to prioritize a lot more going into next year. And just forever onwards, I suppose.
At least the lessons were.
I mean, that's what I mean, though. I think every race I do, I learn so much, and so it's not like one defining moment. It's like all of these moments that add together and like help me to grow and build as an athlete and a person. Which is cool. That's what I love about running as well. Jeepers, you learn so much. I don't think I've learned so much about myself and anything else I've ever done. So I'm very grateful for it, and I think it's why I continue to do what I do.
Imagine you've had a hectic 2024. You've run a lot of races, you've put in a lot of effort. Now, cast your mind over to the clear waters of Zanzibar. Beyond white sand beaches, a dial sails across the horizon, and there you are, chilling in your hammock with your well-deserved rest for a hard-earned 2024. Want to make that happen? Check out Luggage Warehouse's Black Friday competition. One lucky shopper will win a return ticket to Zanzibar worth 9,000 Rand. Or you can trade it in for 4,500 Rand in cash, which you can use towards your race entries, your nutrition, or your gear for next year's running. Any purchase, big or small, gets you in the draw, and it's easy to enter. Just shop at luggagewarehouse.co.za or in their Cape Town and Joburg stores during Black Friday week. And if you want a bonus entry, sign up for Luggage Warehouse's newsletter and you'll get one when you make your purchase. Head over to luggagewarehouse.co.za/Zanzibar for the details. T's and C's apply. When you think of the challenges, that you've kind of faced in your career, what are some of those that define you? And I think, expanding, I guess, on what Bianca said, about that being away from home, I mean, you're very far away a lot of the time, because New Zealand, I've got an uncle that lives in Australia, and it's like 3 days for him to come here, like just the traveling. So you're obviously very far away from home a lot of the time. And so how do you kind of deal with that?
Yeah, I guess I've really tried to make the most of it this year and joining the Adidas Terrex team. So I have been away a lot. And I guess the hardest thing has been away from my partner, Michelle. And we tried to make the most of it, like being able to travel together a little bit, going to the United States and then traveling together, doing a holiday down in South America for a little bit and then over to Europe. But yeah, it is. And it's like, just, we're certainly noticing it as I took off again and went to Cappadocia, Turkey, and then headed straight here to Cape Town after that race. And it is just one of those things, like as Bianca was saying, like we are trying to make the most of the situation, but always trying to bring yourself back to, you know, what makes you feel like at peace as well. And yeah, we just try and focus on what's ahead. You know, we will be spending the summers together after UTCT. I'll be returning to New Zealand, and I think, you know, you have to have those dates set in stone and actually know what's planned ahead, because we obviously there's this time apart, but we're going to have this time together as well, and we're trying to make the most of our situation. And at like certain moments when we are together and when we are apart, we're, you know, doing what we're here to do as well. Like, it's a great time, but we certainly I'm not taking it for granted that this is just an amazing opportunity to actually just get out and explore the world and be part of an amazing team. I don't think if we didn't have this team like environment like we do, just all getting along, it would be very lonely. It would be hard without this support network around us to be away from home like this.
Your Substack is titled Lessons from the Long Run. So what are those kind of lessons, you know, that you've kind of, well, give me, say, like 2 or 3 that you've kind of learned, you know, over your career?
I mean, I do one every week. So there's like, I've been doing it for over a year now. So there's over like 60 or 70 Substack articles now. So yeah, if anyone's listening and wants to learn some things about my journey so far, I try to put that all in writing. Sometimes it's more so like a cathartic thing where I write down my experiences, but sometimes it's tips and things for ultra running or trail running. Probably my biggest, let's just go one, because then I don't have to think about too many more things after this. It really was, and I really learned this the first time I went overseas, is to the States, trying to win a golden ticket, is to be really present and race in the moment. So I went over to the States in 2022 to Canyons trying to win a golden ticket, and I'd already booked my ticket home for after Western States, because I was just like looking ahead, like, this is what I want to do. I've got these goals, big ambitions, you know. And I think that race didn't go to plan, and I was already looking like ahead, like thinking, oh, I'll get this golden ticket. Like, I don't know, pretty naive, really. It was a bloody competitive race. Anyway, a year later, Tarawera, I just went into it knowing that I wanted to race well, and I knew to get a golden ticket, I was just putting Tarawera first and foremost in my mind to have a good race there, and just being present. Actually, even throughout the whole race, you know, even when I got to about 70 or 80K, I knew I was in a good position, either first or second would get a golden ticket, but I wasn't concentrating on that. I'd like, if my mind skipped ahead to the finish line, I'd be like, no, let's just bring it back. Let's bring it back to right now. How's my nutrition going? How's my hydration going? Like, being racing right there. What's my effort level? You know, all these things should be running through your mind in a ultra race, especially because things can go to shite really quickly. So actually being present, racing in the moment, but also just living in the moment, appreciating the good times, appreciating when times are tougher as well. And yeah, that's something I can talk about it. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but like, as long as you're doing that for the most part, I think it's a pretty important lesson.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Back that.
Yeah, and it's important also to kind of keep that, or try and keep that, as you say, like in the back of the mind, to, you know, try and bring yourself back to that and be cognizant of that. And Bianca, how was it coming back to Otta every year, and then obviously coming back to South Africa after that kind of tough season in Europe? And I think for you, Tarawera is usually kind of also like after, I mean, it's the beginning of the year, but it's kind of the same kind of thing. So yeah, talk a bit about that, you know, that coming back and the community and
Sure.
how that kind of recharges you.
Yeah, no, hugely. I feel like I was a different person in Europe than what I was coming back, which was also super interesting to notice about myself. I was really tired when I got back from Europe, and I felt like I needed to take some time off and stuff, but then knew that I really wanted to do Otta for various reasons. And so I just did like some specific training. Didn't think too deeply, but yeah, after Otta, I felt like a completely different person. Sure. So it definitely recharged me in a very, very big way. So I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to do it again, and could get back for that But yeah, the community aspect is just massive. I think in South Africa as well, I think we don't realize how amazing the community is here. It's, I think, quite unique from what I've seen elsewhere. And so, yeah, very, very special to come back and very necessary for where I was at in Europe to come back at that point and to be able to settle here for a while and recharge and figure out how to do next year a bit better.
And Dan, is that the same type of thing with Tarawera?
Yeah, I think exactly as Bianca's saying. Like, for me, it will be, returning to a New Zealand summer, getting to almost reset, do the things that also take my mind and allow me just a bit of relief, where, running isn't always completely on the brain, where I can go dive. I mean, we've been diving here in Cape Town, which was really special as well, but going back home and just doing the things that just chill me out a little bit, diving, being in the bush, even like around Christmas time, just going for a run, but then having a hit with tennis or just hanging out with the family and friends, that kind of stuff. Because then, when it comes to more serious times, not more serious times, because Tarawera is certainly serious for me. But yeah, I can just allow myself to really get into focus and really, be dialed in around the training and the racing. And when Tarawera comes this year, I think it's going to be really cool because it's a Terrex team race. So we'll have everyone coming, well, not everyone, but whoever goes over to Tarawera to compete will basically get to show them my backyard. And I think that's going to be a pretty special experience, just as Bianca's been able to show us around Cape Town and get out and do some cool side events, get into the ocean. It's just really cool. It's I'm really looking forward to it this year.
Yeah. And what about the pressure?
Oh, there is. Yeah, I know. Well, you must know. Obviously, it's like this. You go in and talk to, and then people will be listening, and it's like, oh yeah, Bianca's going to be a favourite for that 23K. So yeah, there certainly is a bit of pressure as well. Returning to Tarawera, doing the 100K again, it's going to be quite a competitive race, being a golden ticket race. And no, I'm actually looking forward to that because I don't have the pressure of having to get a golden ticket to go to Western States since I got a top 10. But it will be, no doubt there's going to be a bit of hype, and I can take that for sure. I can take that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the race, but hopefully it is like a little bit low key where I can just get out and get amongst the Kiwi trail running community with the team and just have a good time as well.
And Bianca was talking about the kind of the special South African community. What is the New Zealand trail community like?
It's great. It's great. Like, it's probably similar in the sense that trail running is still like a growing sport. So if you go to races around New Zealand, you're running into the same people, and people are really, really supportive. I actually did a race in Tekapō, which is in the South Island of New Zealand, between CCC and leaving note to go over to Turkey. And it was so good. People were like, oh, congrats, on your year so far. It's been really cool to follow. And people do enjoy following the journey, I think. And people have said like that they're inspired by some of the running that we do, which is really nice. It's like, we're just running really, but people get inspired by, you putting effort in and doing what you can to make it on a world stage in a minority sport. So that's really special. It'll be cool. It'll be cool to catch up with everyone when I'm back in New Zealand, especially around Tarawera weekend.
And do you kind of resonate as well with that kind of experience of growing up in South Africa? Trail running is also like still that kind of small kind of evolutionary phase.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's also really crazy to see how it's grown from what it was to where it is today. But yeah, it is very special to be a part of that and to, as Dan said, be like inspiring people, even though you don't necessarily know that you are. Like you're just running. But people really resonate with what you're doing, which is really cool. And definitely makes it worth it as well.
I think that's something, isn't it? Like, we line up on the start line with everybody else, whereas it's a pretty unique sport in that sense. There's not too many sports where the elites are lining up with people that are out there, got their own goals, got their own ambitions to get through that course and enjoy it. Yeah. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
And the pressure?
Yeah, I think as Dan said, I suppose running at home always does come with its pressure because you are, I suppose, known in the small community that you're from. And for sure, actually, last year at UTCT, I was super nervous the morning of. But again, as Dan said, like try not let that pressure get to you, and just enjoy it for what it is, and soak up the experiences, soak up the like opportunity of having my teammates in South Africa. Like it's my best thing when I have teammates here to like show them the cool things that South Africa and Cape Town have to offer. I'm such a Cape Town fan, so it's always so great to be able to like share the stoke with people that have not experienced it and see like them loving it and seeing everything that it has to offer. So try not let the pressure get you, but I think there's always pressure in every race that you do, and it's just about managing that pressure. And I think pressure is good as well, up to a certain point, and it's about like figuring out that balance.
And staying in the moment as well.
Exactly. That presence is very important, I think, and something that people can lose sight of quite quickly if you don't if you're not conscious about it.
Dan, you said last year was kind of your breakout year, but this year, you've had an incredible year as well. So how do you kind of assess, have you had time to assess the year, or are you kind of still very much in racing mode and December will be assessment time?
Yeah, I don't really sit still, have too much of an off season, so I should, take time to get the head above water at some stage. But yeah, it has been an amazing year because this was my first year joining the Adidas Terrex team in March or April. And I try and do that along the way as well, because you do build up to these big races, there's big pressure, and then afterwards it's like, whew, okay, I can relax for
Come down.
a couple of days. Yeah, sometimes it's not great either because, you put all this focus on a big event and you really got to make sure that afterwards you've got either a way to reflect or something to look forward to, or take your mind off things as well, and make sure you're also enjoying that moment where the pressure is off and you don't have to have something to work towards every single hour of the day. It's a cool thing though, is when you get through a race and you can celebrate either the success of it or at least celebrate something, like different parts that went well, because it doesn't always go to plan, but it's good to reflect sometimes and then look forward to something else, celebrate those successes and otherwise.
And you've done the UTMB Western States double 2 years in a row, right?
Well, I did CCC this year.
Yeah. How did you find that, kind of managing it? Is it like the long term, is that the goal, or is it kind of one or the other? Would the performance have been better at one or the other?
It is hectic. It's hard for me doing the Western States UTMB double was just crazy. I said, I had a good race at Western States. Let's just use UTMB for the experience so I can come back another year and give it a good crack. But then when you're in it, you're like, I'm pumped, I'm ready to go, I'm fit. And then, it is what it is. Like, I had a good experience, but it just felt like I was surviving, battling the whole time. I managed to come through and had a decent result anyway, but
I mean, fourth is not bad.
This was the previous
battling.
No. I'm talking about the previous year when I did the 100 miler. I got 12th. And I was like, whoa! I was just ruined for like a month afterwards. My legs had DOMs for literally like a month or a few weeks at least. And so then, I was happy to drop down a distance this year and do the Western States CCC double, which was more achievable, and I managed to recover a lot better. But wow, when I was in it, the CCC, it was super tough and really competitive as well. So now I look back and I'm like, it was a good result. I should do it again. But wow, it takes a lot out of you mentally to do that. So that's why the back half of the season I have chosen to do Cappadocia 38K and UTCT 35K because shorter distances kind of allow. Physically, I could do probably longer stuff, but mentally, it's a nicer way for the mind to, I guess, bring a bit back and allow it to recover a little bit.
Yeah, and I think last time we were chatting also about that, the 100 miles is not kind of the be all and the end all, and it's kind of the shorter distances offer quite a nice opportunity. And I was looking through, your kind of results and stuff, and you have kind of jumped around a lot of different distances. Is that a conscious thing, or is it, again, it's like, I'm feeling tired, let me go here? Or have you tried to keep that kind of excitement and that?
Yeah. And I think, different times of years, different times during the year, I should be concentrating on different things. And now after CCC, it's been trying to build a bit more speed back into the league. So I'm not going to go out and like try and ruin myself by doing super long stuff or things that don't align with other overall goals, which now I'm looking towards Tarawera as well, and Western States for next year being two major races that I really want to do well at. UTCT too, of course, but that's why I have chosen the shorter distance because, as I said, it takes a little bit of stress off the body and the mind.
Do you have a favorite distance?
A favorite distance and a favorite course, I've got to say, like, Tarawera's been amazing for me, and it's a flowy, fun trails, 100k. You get in there just under 8 hours, and so around that time frame is pretty good for me.
Yeah, it was interesting when we chatted to Robbie as well. It was like he also assesses things on hours, rather than distances, in terms of the effort level, which is quite interesting because obviously I think the elites kind of look at the hour thing, where like we look at the kind of like distance, the distance kind of thing,
Yeah, well, I think if you look at Western States versus UTMB, it's like 14 and a half, 15 hours versus, well, for me, it was like 22 hours. So it's a massive difference, when you take 7 hours into account. It's like, whoa, big difference in course.
I think, trail running's different like that because, the same distance can, as Dan said, take so many different hours. So it makes more sense, actually, to like look at hours rather than distance, right?
Exactly.
But maybe just because people generally do look at distance from like a road running background, it makes more sense to look at distance than hours.
True.
Yeah, it doesn't really hold for trail running.
Yeah. And Bianca, are we still going marathon distance, or where we were at with that kind of discussion?
Yeah, I think next year I'm gonna go for my first ultras, but short, like 50k, 55k. Yeah. I'd actually love to at the end of next year do UTCT 55k, and then hopefully next year I'm gonna try qualify for OCC for 2026.
Nice.
So slowly moving my way up. But as I've said to you last time, I really like the short stuff for now. I like the speed and I like running, and I don't feel like there's any pressure for me to move up yet. At some point maybe, but for now, like I need to do what I enjoy, and that's short stuff.
And have there been any kind of specific training adjustments or routines that you've taken on in the season, or that you've picked up that you could improve on?
Actually, like power hiking efficiency.
Okay, nice.
Something that I didn't really think of prior to this season, but I think being good at power hiking is very valuable. And I think just climbing in general here, when I go to Europe, every time I get there, I'm like, sure, these people know how to climb. Like in South Africa, I suppose, or in Cape Town at least, we don't have big climbs and long climbs and runnable climbs and steep, long runnable climbs. So it's definitely something I'm trying to focus on, although it is difficult to find in Cape Town. But that's why I went to George in the beginning of this year, because there are more opportunities to do longer and steeper climbs. But that's for sure something that I'm trying to incorporate more. And then, I suppose just keeping working on the speed. I think the faster you can run, the more advantageous. So more speed sessions. Just keeping going, I suppose. Small progress, small steps.
And Dan, in South Africa, we say like South Africans kind of struggle with the European, as Bianca was saying, if you don't kind of spend a lot of time in Europe, you're not going to do well in Europe just because of the total difference. Do you see that as well in terms of the difference between Europe and New Zealand? Is New Zealand quite similar to South Africa, or?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I completely understand where Bianca's coming from in that sense, because I'm even from the North Island, where our climbs are even shorter than here. I think the max elevation or the max altitude that I climb up in Wellington is about 700 meters. So the climbs are certainly a lot shorter. It's a hard one because I also had to spend a bit of time in Chamonix to get used to these types of climbs, just a long ascents and descents.
Yeah, the descending's actually huge as well here.
It's massive, and especially for someone that's, as we've kind of discussed, like less technically inclined, it's like it does take a little while to condition the legs on both of these things. So I think it's good to have both, but then looking at the course and trying to play your strategy to where your strengths and maybe your weaknesses lie as well. So pushing on certain parts of the course and allowing yourself to relax into maybe the longer climbs, because if you do push too hard, it's probably an area where you will blow up.
Yeah.
And that's just what I did at the end of CCC.
You held on for long enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's also like not that you can't do well if you come from like South Africa or New Zealand. I think you just have to be more intentional with your training and try to simulate like the type of running that you'll get in Europe.
Yeah.
So just be more conscious of it, because it is very different.
Yeah.
And so training on Table Mountain isn't always very advantageous when you're running on like very manicured trails in Europe.
True.
So it's being more intentional.
Dan, you're a coach as well. How's that kind of developed? What is the kind of the difference between that and kind of your own running? Do you coach yourself? And what kind of training philosophies do you kind of apply when you're training someone?
No, I'm actually now coached by Rory Britton.
Okay.
And so I've been working with him for a bit of a year and a quarter or so. Before that, I was coaching myself, mainly through some of the marathon stuff. Had some mentors along the way as well. But through the marathon stuff and into the start of my trail running. But happy to have a coach now, happy to have his guidance for sure. It just gives you a lot of confidence. And you can take that into racing and just think, I've done the training that's been prescribed and had these good chats about strategy and tactics. And basically, I've been coaching others for about 5 or 6 years as I was exiting the kind of corporate world, the office life that I was living. And that's been actually really nice, because I've got to use some of my own experiences in the road and the trail, and the multi-sport as well, to help others kind of reach their own goals, which has been really rewarding, because it's nice to to break up the day and you're not just solely focused on that run that's coming next. It's what about their runs that are coming next? Or it's nice. It's really good, and it's a good way to have that interaction as well with. I mainly coach Kiwis, so it's really good to be on top of things, all the events coming up back on the New Zealand calendar. And for sure, I do love to rock up to a local event as well and take part when I'm back in New Zealand.
Yeah. And how do you kind of deal with that, the time difference?
Tough.
Yeah.
With Michelle, with clients, but it's just something that you make work. So I just typically in my mornings am messaging and reaching out to people, so that's how I get that done. Really, in the evenings, I've sent a few messages, but it's I like to try and turn off a little bit in the evenings. So I try and use my mornings for work. Yeah.
And you've recently joined the Terrex team. How's that transition been?
Yeah. So before that, I was with Essex New Zealand, and they were amazing. But it was like I was like an individual, and obviously it's just different levels of scale, right? So they did everything. Like, they were amazing, helped me out with gear and everything, and even to get to some events. So that was really cool. And when I got the proposition from Adidas Terrex, it was just amazing, like a dream come true, joining a full-scale team, a global team. And Essex New Zealand obviously knew this, and they had no qualms with me going. Like, obviously they were sad to lose me, but they fully supported that decision. So I really respected that. Actually, that was really nice, because we had a great relationship for about a few years. I started off marathon running with them, and then really got into the trail space during that time. So this year has just, as I was saying before, it just opened up so many more opportunities, getting to meet new team members. Can really thank Ruth Croft a lot for who is a Kiwi team member, maybe putting my name forward, I think, and meeting the new athlete managers, Rob and the rest of the team, Julia's and Babs. It's just a very cool experience being able to travel around, sharing different races, but also sharing the time around those races. So we go out, do our activations, and it's like, whoa, we're professionals. I'm a professional now. And that's pretty cool to say, you know, like in the sport, it's very, as Bianca was saying, it's like, you don't imagine it I certainly didn't imagine it when I was younger that I'd be a professional athlete, especially not a professional runner.
So random.
Yeah, it's so random. And now that I can say that I am, I don't say that I am. It still feels weird, but it's like, it's just a really special feeling.
Bianca, have there been any kind of changes to how things have gone with Terrex this year? Any improvements? How's the year been as being part of the team?
No, I mean, every year it's incredible, and Terrex is so supportive with everything in the direction you choose to go, which is, I think we're very lucky for that. But no, I mean, it's the same. I think each year it's become more and more professional, which is really cool. And I mean, the shoe technology, all of that stuff, it's been pretty crazy for me. I suppose this is now my third year on the team, and to see what it's been like, the progress from when I started to where I am today with the shoes and the gear in general, pretty mind-blowing, and it's exciting for what's to come in the future. But no, I think Terrex is an incredible team, and I'm just super grateful to be a part of it and to have such amazing teammates and inspiring people to look up to in the sport. So nothing has changed too much, I suppose.
And how do you kind of reflect on new people joining the team, and how is that for you? You know,
very upset.
I think because we've had like Macy and Robbie, and and they've obviously been a part of the team, like for a long time, and it sounds like they're you're quite a tight knit unit. So coming into that, how was that? And
sure. I mean, it's cool, of course, and I think I said this quite recently at Dry Islands, but what Terrex does very well is they bring all different people from all different parts of the planet together, who I think are very like-minded in many ways, and so we all, or at least the majority, seem to get along really well. And so for sure, it's an adjustment when there's someone new that's added to the team, but they slot in very quickly and very easily. It's quite effortless, I think. Well, I don't know how Dan feels, but I mean, it feels so easy when people join, because we are, I think, in general, quite similar philosophies. And so, it's really cool. And of course, making new friends from New Zealand is always really exciting and great. And so it's cool. I love it. It takes a while, but
talk about your bromance with Macy.
Oh yeah, no. See, I think the team, when making the decision on bringing new people in and everything, it's one that it's not just probably strictly running and how many social media, how well people do in social media. It's probably also making sure that personality is going to slot in, because we do spend a lot of time together, and everyone does, as you say, seems to get along. So we've been hanging out in Chamonix, here, in the United States as well. So it's very cool that, as Bianca's saying, people from all over just get to spend time together and build up good friendships. And that is important, because when we are away, as I was saying before, it's you got to rely on these people to have fun and just absolutely get along as colleagues, but more importantly as friends.
It's like your support network when you're away from home, I think, to a large extent, and it makes a difference if you get along with your support network. And I think in general we do, so it helps a lot, at least for myself, when I'm in Europe, to have these people I can fall back on and ask for advice and guidance and that type of thing. It makes a big difference.
On the advice side, what advice would you give to people wanting to get into trail running? What are what's the golden nugget? What are the things you want people to avoid?
Oh, it's just, don't let any perceptions stop you from getting out there. Trail running can be as easy or as difficult as you want to make it. A trail run is literally just getting off the pavement and maybe going for a jog around the park, dirt track, not pavement, of course. But no, I'm joking. But it's really, running can be very simple. It's just about getting out and doing it, and try and find some people that you want to go out there and do it with, because that always makes it, I think, for the most part, more enjoyable when you can share that running experience.
Bianca, have you anything to add to that? Like from what we chatted last time, that this year that you've kind of picked up in terms of that advice, for people that are kind of getting into the sport?
No, I think, as Dan said, keep it simple. I think don't take yourself too seriously. And I think, just remind yourself why you run, and just try and enjoy it. Hey, like it's such a gift that we have to be able to run. I think we forget that sometimes, but it's a privilege, and so remember that when you are running. And just keep it simple.
Yeah. And what does the future look like for both of you? What's running? I think last time you said UTMB will was on the list, and Western States was on the list. I think.
Gosh, that's
long
term.
Long term.
Yeah.
You've obviously ticked off all of the boxes.
Yeah, I can retire now.
Exactly. So what is the future next year, and obviously long term as well?
In a running sense.
Yeah. Well, are you marriage with kids? Yeah.
I'm finishing my master's this year, so that's quite a big one.
Okay,
actually.
Amazing.
But no, on a running front, I suppose just keep going, keep figuring it out. Next year, as I said, I'll try qualify for OCC for 2026. I think that's a big goal for me. Just keep growing, keep learning, keep improving. And I haven't necessarily got a race schedule yet. Still figuring that out. But similar probably to this year.
Are you looking at the roadblock again, like you did?
Oh yes, yeah. I'll probably aim for 2 Oceans half again. I really loved that this year, and so I love the road running community in South Africa. I think it's so diverse, and I've just always really enjoyed that. So I'll do the roadblock again this year, and then move on to trails probably after that. Although, hopefully if I can go to Tarawera in New Zealand in February, that'll kind of fall into the like roadblock. And then, transition to trail. Don't know the exact trail race plans yet, but OCC qualifier, probably the top goal.
Sure. Amazing. Dan?
Yeah, so next year, you mean next year and onwards, eh? I'd love to be able to travel a bit more with Michelle, just so we can spend less time apart. That'd be pretty important. Hopefully, we can, basically work a situation that allows that, while still making the most of all these just amazing opportunities that Terrex provides in terms of travel and racing. In terms of the actual racing itself, I'm locked in for Tarawera 100K. So that first and foremost, I think it's a great, as I said before, start to the year where it just kicks off with a bit of speed, and then using that to probably do an in-between race somewhere, yet to be locked in, but then certainly Western States is probably my main priority, and then determining the rest of this. I usually just determine the rest of the season from there, basically, how the body responds, how the mind is feeling, maybe even how the performance goes. So, that's that. I'd love to also come and do like a road ultra here at some stage. Like Comrades has always been on my wish list, and Two Oceans now that I've heard a lot more about it, but Comrades especially being a bit longer. But unfortunately that does clash with Western States right now. So it would be very cool to do, and I've heard just such good things, especially while I've still got a little bit of speed in the legs. Although, I've seen the pace that these guys run at. Who knows? But that's basically my
Oceans is probably a bit more manageable in terms of the time of the year.
True.
And it's beautiful. The ultras, unbelievable.
But then you have to run even faster than Comrades.
Exactly.
But it's hilly. Hey, you have an advantage as a trail runner.
But how hilly?
That's true.
And it's backloaded hilly. So
right.
Yeah, I think for me as well, just getting involved in the team events a lot more next year. I think, this year I was quite focused on Golden Trail Series, so I kind of missed out on a lot of those, but I think that'll be a priority for next year for sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. This is incredible.
Thank you.
And good luck with UTCT. It should be a good weekend, regardless of what happens during the race.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, and for not bringing up any South African All Blacks.
This is a trail running space.
Oh, everyone keeps mentioning that to me. I'm like, how do I respond if I get asked this question on a podcast?
Are you a rugby fan?
Oh yeah, of
Yeah.
course I'm a Kiwi.
Yeah.
I've got to be a rugby fan.
Yeah. I think trail running safe space. We they are
Oh, I appreciate that. No, thank you very much.
amazing. Thanks, guys.
Bye,
Cheers.
thank you.